Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session of Research Methods for Business. And in today's session, we will be looking at how to develop research ideas, especially as it relates to the development of your research proposals. So, it is expected that by the end of this session, you should be able to demonstrate an understanding of how to develop research ideas and justify a comprehensive understanding of the stakeholder analysis with quick insights into value and impact of research. So let's start with these two premises, right? Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people by Eleanor Roosevelt. And then the second one is the difficulty lies not so much in developing new ideas as in escaping from old ones. Now, these two quotes are rich and insightful as they both reflect the importance of developing and projecting new ideas. Now, the interesting fact is that research ideas usually come from one's interest, or from one's acquired knowledge, or from the desire to obtain an appropriate answer regarding an identified problem. Now, from experience, asking specific questions about the areas of interest is usually helpful in defining a research idea. Now, the research idea is actually not difficult to develop. When you use an inquisitive mind or an inquisitive attitude towards finding responses to questions presented, it actually appears not to be a difficult task. Now, the research idea would then offer a light to the research process. But first, what are the key or meaningful elements to consider when thinking of a good idea or a good research idea? So I would argue that it's good practice to structure these across the lines of attributes and inclusion. So what are attributes? Attributes are features or characteristics or an inherent part of something, while inclusion is the action or state of being included within a group or a structure. So if we relate these two concepts to our idea considerations, we can say that attributes or traits of any good research must include its relevance, its rigor, the set timelines, and purpose. So let's quickly take some of these concepts briefly, and so that we can actually have some good insights about them. So if you take the first, so the traits of what defines good research, like we pointed out, relevance, rigor, timely, and purposive. So relevance here asks about how relevant is that idea, or how relevant is that research idea. Now, this means that does your research actually fill a gap in the existing pool of scientific knowledge? Now, and this can actually be done by reading extensively on your chosen topic and identifying what hasn't been investigated yet. If you look at the concept of rigor, right, a good research must be rigorous. And rigor here indicates this criteria for ascertaining the trustworthiness of your idea in terms of how you will collect data, how you will analyze data, and how you will interpret data. In qualitative research, rigor can also be loosely compared with reliability and validity. Now, in terms of timeliness, good research also has to be timely too, because this indicates that the timeliness of research is important because it can aid evidence-based decision-making process in terms of theory, in terms of practice, and of course, in terms of policy. Now, regards purposive, a good research must always have that sense of purpose. It must be designed to achieve a set of objectives. This is what you hope to achieve by undertaking that research or by undertaking that research idea. Now, when you have these attributes, right, the idea is how can we ensure that we align these details or these attributes to the inclusion considerations. Now, in terms of inclusion, we have details of the events, the supporting literature, context, access, analysis, and clarity of purpose. So in relating relevance, rigor, timely, and purposiveness, it's good practice to align it to any particular event and supported with relevant and quality literature to espouse what has been studied about that particular area. Now, content is very, very key, very, very important, very relevant because it defines the circumstances that form the setting or the idea of any research. This actually makes it easier for the research, for the readership, or for the audience to have a clearer or a better understanding of the background of the research. Others include access, analysis, clarity of purpose, right? Access, how do you gain access to the research phenomenon? Analysis, how do you analyze it? And clarity of purpose. These are very key elements to consider when thinking of a meaningful research idea. So let's take a quick quiz, right? So bring out your pen and paper and answer the following questions, right? Think of a good research or a good research topic, right? What makes it a good research topic? Is that topic business related? Will it interest a wide group of people? Is it focused on a particular context or industry? Is it beneficial? And if it is beneficial, what are the relevant outcomes? So get your answers together, right? And I think it's good practice. Let's see, bring these answers along to your tutorial sessions and we will see how we can address some of this. Now, a good research actually includes 5 phases, right? 5 phases. And these phases include understanding the business context, right? Reviewing your literature. Hereby, this is where you outline your research questions, your aim and your objectives. Then the third stage is where you try to develop and justify the methodological choices you've adopted for your research. Thereby, you proceed to the fourth stage, which is analyzing the data you've sourced, qualitative or quantitative data, and you use that to review literature. And the final stage is where you conclude your research and you assess the impact and value. So every good research actually includes these 5 stages, and these 5 stages are quite important. But for this session, I want us to ask key questions about our research idea. And in this research idea, we want to continue to probe what we know and what do we want to do with our topic or with our research idea, right? What can we identify as a problem and why is that problem important? Why is it of interest? Why is it of relevance? And what do you think is the benefit? So with this in mind and reflecting on the previous quiz task, I think a good way to generate ideas should be also examined. Now, I've put up a series of bullet points that would guide us in terms of how to generate a good research idea. So first approach is witness the world around you. What's going on in your world today? Witness the world around you. Now reflect on things of particular interest to you, things that matter to you, things that align with your passion and your interests. Right? Then put your pen to paper. Always put the pen to paper because they say a pen is mightier than the sword. So put the pen to paper. Right? Now, the other number of options, brainstorming, mind maps, relevant trees, scanning literature, talking to others. With these, you can actually generate ideas. Then at the end, you now proceed to formulate and clarify the idea into a research topic. Now, we've spoken about those key elements, but it's quite important to understand 2 new concepts. The concept of rational versus creative thinking, right? Because learning how to generate ideas actually involves these 2 forms of thinking. Now, the rational thoughts or the rational thinking is based on a clear reason and logical progression. It is a process for generating and refining ideas within a research context, and this is actually based on a scientific or systematic approach. And this could include searching for existing literature. On the other hand, creative thinking is all about intuition. It's all about hunches. It's all about the general playing around with ideas till one magical idea pops out in your head. Now, creative thinking involves a greater refinement of your ideas towards specific context and problems. Here you deal with real-time situations and real-time primary data. Now, within these 2, right, there are elements of objectivity and subjectivity. Now, these are 2 concepts that you will, as you proceed in this course, come to be familiar with. Now, the rational thinking is actually objective in approach because it is scientific. It draws from a positivist philosophy, suggesting that researchers should remain distant from their findings rather than on personality, feelings, or beliefs. While on the other hand, creative thinkers are subjective in approach. They are influenced by personal feelings, by opinions, and tastes. So where do you fall in? Do you think you're an objective thinker? Do you think you're a subjective thinker? Where do you fall? So those two concepts, objectivity and subjectivity, don't forget them. They will play an important role in our research process. So let's look at some of the underpinnings shaping rational and creative thinking. So we've seen how to generate ideas. Now we need to consider how to test these ideas. But before testing these ideas, let's look at some of these underpinnings, right? So in terms of rationale here, you're able to examine your own strengths and interests. You are able to look at past project titles and discussions. You're able to scan the media and you search for existing literature. While for creative thinking, you are able to keep a notebook of your ideas. You are able to explore relevance to business using the literature, use brainstorming, relevance trees, exploring personal preferences, and using past projects. I think the core of people you would ask are more creative thinkers, right? So I think for this course, rationale involves self-reflection, discussion ideas, scanning for topics. Creative or critical involves more tutorial engagement, convergent exercises, critical defense of ideas. So I think now it's time for us to consider how to test these ideas. Remember, I think another good point to keep in mind is that when thinking of ideas and before testing them, you need to always ask yourself, the topic I've chosen, is it worthwhile? Does it make sense? Is it realistic? Can it be investigated? In real sense, is it achievable? And one good technique to do this is what we call the Delphi process, or a Delphi technique. Now, the Delphi technique is a process used to arrive at a decision by a group of people. Now, these people that you've chosen, they respond to several rounds of questions, and these responses are aggregated and shared with the group after each round. Now, the Delphi techniques helps you clarify and refine your ideas, whereby you use a group of people, and with that, you're able to arrive at a consensus. So it helps you reach a wider discussion and help you look at the best approaches or best strategies or best objectives to adopt. So you can always speak to people, form a small Delphi group, right? Group of your friends, family, people around you, right? Try and test your ideas with them in terms of, is this topic worthwhile? Is it realistic? Can it be achievable? So the quick activity I would advise is brief the group members, right? Encourage them to seek more information, right? Ask each member to outline 3 alternative research ideas or problems to investigate. Bring all these ideas together from members towards reflection. Encourage comments and feedback. Repeat the cycle. I would recommend 2 to 5 times. And I think at that point, some sufficient or quality outcome becomes apparent. So try this. It is very good. I think this will actually help you refine and test your ideas. Now, I think the final stage is integrating these ideas. Now, how do you integrate these ideas is by ensuring that you're able to refine your proposal and have an outline for the proposal. So what I've done is I put up a template on the Aberdeen site. Look at the template. That would give you an idea of how a proposal should be structured. Then a Gantt chart actually helps you spell out the timeline, projecting the potential research activities, what you would undertake, how long it's going to take, right? What are the stages that have to be achieved? You must always have research questions. I will do that in the next session. Then you finalize your purpose and you must have actionable objectives. So with all this in mind, I think we need to appreciate the role of people within our research. Now, in appreciating the role of people within our research, we need to speak about or delve into the world of Robert Edward Freeman. and it speaks a whole lot on the role of the stakeholder. Now, in conceptualizing the stakeholder, it's a wide and generic term. It includes entities or people affected directly or indirectly by your company or an organization or its activities. So in this case, and within the context of this study and in developing our research proposal, it is important to reflect on who are those involved in your research and who are those and who your research may impact. And that brings us to the stakeholder analysis. And the stakeholder analysis talks about the stakeholder theory. Now, the stakeholder theory was coined by Edward Freeman. And its theory holds that an organization's stakeholders includes just about anyone affected by the organization and its workings. Freeman's view suggests that an organization's stakeholders are those groups without whose support the organization will cease to exist. Now, the stakeholder theory is about understanding the external and internal forces from different walks of life that work for or against the organization, which may have a direct or indirect impact. Now, these forces may be evident or can appear in a process of change during mergers for businesses, in the case of educational institutions, maybe during transition periods, or maybe in the case of operations change of direction. Now, with the stakeholder analysis, you're able to understand the different relationships with key individuals or groups that relate directly or indirectly within your organization. Now, the question I want to ask is, how does this relate to my research? Now, the truth is, who are the key stakeholders for your research, right? What are the internal or external forces that work for or against your organization? Who are the key individuals or group directly or indirectly involved with your research? Who are the key individuals, who are the key stakeholders that will relate or help you shape your study? So for a typical business, you have customers, employees, local communities, shareholders. These are direct groups. Then indirect, you have the academics, the business partners, competitors, financiers, governments, NGOs, to mention a few. So my question again is, who are the stakeholders for your research idea? So if you think about a research idea, who do you think will be the relevant stakeholders? Who are those that will help you shape your research? The people you are going to investigate, the context. Think about it. Who are the key stakeholders that will help you achieve your research purpose? So this is an example of a stakeholder map. It includes the government. So this is for a typical firm. So a typical firm, you have a government, the suppliers, environmentalists, employees, media, competitors, customers, owners, consumer advocates. Now, to summarize, right, our first tutorial task when we meet, we have to do what we call a topic brainstorming. And please come with this to the tutorial session, right? Think of that interesting topic, builds on the previous quiz task you had undertaken in this lecture. Think of a research problem, think of a purpose, think of keywords, and think of the stakeholders. Note an interesting topic, think of a research problem. What is the problem? Now, what do you think will be the purpose of your research? What do you think will be the keywords? What will be the keywords? Is it small business, entrepreneurship, gender? It's up to you. Who do you think will be the stakeholders? Think about it. Reflect. And that's why it's called the brainstorming. Now, with this brainstorming template, come up with 5 topical ideas that you think might be of interest to you. Come up with another 5 keywords. Come up with purpose and value, put that in that template, then list the 5 stakeholders. I will discuss this when we meet in the tutorial session.